This is cool. Please. Wow, what a welcome. Thank you. You made my day. It's great to be here, though, and it's great to be back. I would like to start, though, by asking that we give recognition to both Hank and Sandy and their entire team for this great conference. Thank you so much for your hard work. Well, you're stuck listening to me twice. So this is the first one, and then tomorrow. So tomorrow I'm going to talk about reinventing Michigan. Today, though, I am a huge supporter of this conference and the wonderful things it does. So I wanted to really go through the pillars today, to talk about the pillars and why they are so important to all of us, and really set the stage for what I hope is a tremendous dialogue and what I hope is action coming out of this. And the three pillars, as you saw them briefly, is they have STEM education, entrepreneurship, and impact. I'm going to start with impact. And why do I want to start with that? I want to share a story with you. I came back to Michigan in about 97, 98 time frame when we moved back from South Dakota, Sue and I and the family. And I started coming up to this conference for 2 or 3 years. To be blunt, I stopped. Because I came up for a couple years, 2 or 3 years, and I heard a discussion on regional transportation. And I heard that same discussion 2 or 3 years in a row. You're laughing because you were there. And nothing happened. And most of the discussion items, nothing happened. And the point is most of our time and resources are too valuable to do something where nothing happens, to be open with you. So that's where impact is critically important. This is now a conference of impact. It's an opportunity for impact. And that's why it's worthwhile today. And I really want to compliment all of you, people in the chamber in particular, for bringing that focus, for bringing that attention. So this is about results now. And when you talk about impact, if you look around the state, there's been some tremendous examples of real impact. And I just want to share 2 or 3 of those because it really does reinforce the good things going on in Michigan. Too often we forget about that. And I'm not going to go through the list of government stuff. I mean, that's what you'd expect me to do. I want to talk about 2 or 3 public-private partnerships and then some of the things we need to work on. One is I want to give credit to the Live Midtown people for their great work in Detroit, for Wayne State, Henry Ford, DMC all coming together to say, let's encourage people to live in Midtown. If you look at occupancy is over 98% in Midtown and downtown Detroit. It's an environment where young people are striving to live there, and we need more housing. That's impact, folks. In terms of other parts of the state, because again, I want to thank the Chamber for making this more Michigan embracing. You go to Grand Rapids, a fabulous opportunity was Art Prize. Think about what Art Prize has done to the Grand Rapids area, but sending a message to all of the United States and the world that one of the greatest, coolest places for arts and culture is right here in the state of Michigan. We all win by that. Those are just 2 outstanding illustrations. I could give you a long list. I want to say one impact, though, that the Detroit Regional Chamber's doing themselves, and they deserve credit for this, is they're partnering with the Michigan Education Excellence Foundation, MEEF, which is helping do the EAA, but they're also partnering with us on the Detroit Scholarship Fund. A couple years ago, we created a scholarship fund. Many people may not know this, to really take care of the first 2 years community college education for any student in the city of Detroit, whether they go to DPS, EAA, or a charter school. And it's a scholarship program to take care of the last dollar requirements to make sure they can go to one of the participating community colleges. We've got over 700 kids utilizing that program, students utilizing that program, and the Chamber's helping administer that. Isn't that great? And we've got several thousand students signing up now because people are learning the program works. And that's a great opportunity. It's such a great opportunity, I hope you won't mind when we come ask you for money too to help support it. But if you talk about impact, again, as we think about it, let's make sure we come up with action items coming out of this meeting to get done. One of the topics that will be critically important, I appreciate you sharing it with your legislators. Ours, we're not done with the grand bargain for Detroit. We've got it through the House. We need to get it through the Senate. I hope that's a great opportunity for you to talk to your senator. to have a dialogue to impress how important it is that we get the solution put in place. Because think about impact in our lifetime. To actually say we could get the financial affairs of the city of Detroit reconciled, try to come up with a constructive solution in a very difficult time for many retirees, and I appreciate how tough that is. But we can have a dialogue then to say, we're not talking about the city of Detroit going downhill anymore. We can all get on the page, and the same page of saying, let's talk about the growth of Detroit. Isn't that something we should all aspire to? The comeback of Detroit is critical to the comeback of Michigan. For Michigan to be a great state again, we need and we will get Detroit on the path to being a great city again. And I'm confident we have great leadership coming into Detroit doing good work. Let's partner together and get this done. Impact. The second one is entrepreneurship. Because that's about job creation. That's about showing how innovative and creative we are. We quite often like to talk about how we're the automotive capital of the world back in the early part of the last century. Well, we also had the title, and we never thought about calling ourselves that. We were the entrepreneurial capital of the world. We've got it in our DNA, folks. We know how to create ideas. We just forgot about how to do it too much. It's time to bring that back. And how do you do that? That doesn't happen overnight. And that's a great topic to discuss because we're setting the conditions now to do it, but now we need to deliver on it. And what do I mean by that? A lot of that is tax environment, regulatory environment. More importantly, it's the talent and how we interface with one another. How we encourage people to take risk, managed risk, not reckless risk, but how to build those organizations. One illustration I was so excited about was we had an entrepreneurial climate report come out just in the last 2 or 3 weeks. It showed in 2008 we ranked 41st in entrepreneurship climate. You know what we ranked today in 2013? We're number 6, number 1 in the Midwest. So we need to keep that up. And I'll give you a couple more stories that to put it in perspective for you. Venture capital. When I came back to Michigan in '97, I started doing venture capital. To be blunt, hardly anyone knew what venture capital was in the state of Michigan. I remember I had to go buy a welcome pack for $7 so I could understand what was going on in town because no one would help me because they didn't know what a venture fund was. Well, where are we today in Michigan? In the last 5 years, we've had a 44% increase in the number of venture funds in our state compared to the national average of 6%. Capital under management in our state has gone up by 45% compared to 7% for the country. Think about that. We're increasing dramatically faster. Again, we are farther at the bottom. But the venture capital industry in our country has largely been flat over the last 5 years. We're growing at more than a 50% growth rate in many cases. That's something we should be proud of and we need to encourage. Again, we're seeing other programs to help. Again, we had the JP Morgan Chase announcement last week. That was tremendous about helping entrepreneurship, about helping create that climate. But we had Goldman Sachs how many months before? Not many months before. And I want to thank Huntington Bank for their microloan program. Again, many parties are coming to the table to create that environment, not just the government, but to create the fostering of environment to let free enterprise work. One of the things we still need to learn, though, is this issue about supporting people when they even fail. Because if we're going to have an environment for entrepreneurship, you can't have it where you only do things that work. If you don't have a risk of failure and you don't have an occasional failure, it means you didn't try hard enough. And that's difficult for many of us to understand. But we need to create that climate where, again, you never go out of your way to fail, but you pick yourselves up and just do it again. Never forget, for the Ford Motor Company, it was Henry Ford's 3rd try. And I do this in the public sector. And hopefully you see that. I've told people if everything I work on is governor work, it meant I wasn't doing my job because I was not pushing hard enough to reinvent Michigan. The things I haven't gotten done, I just call it relentless positive action. I bet you've heard that phrase before. You just stay relentless in the pursuit of a solution. That's the attitude we need for entrepreneurship. So let's work on that. Now, STEM education. That's important because it's a huge opportunity. Tying back into entrepreneurship, many of the things we have an opportunity to invent tie back into science, technology, engineering, or math. So we do need to support that, and we are. But a lot of this is an educational issue. We need to get the parents and young kids, have them appreciate the importance. One of the coolest things we have going on in Michigan, and I hope you're going to keep tracking this, is something called FIRST Robotics. How many people here are familiar with FIRST Robotics? Yeah, we got a few stars down here on FIRST Robotics. It's a national program that really is in high schools, it's in middle schools, but it's these young kids creating teams with company sponsorship, with teachers as coaches. They go out and they actually have a competition. It's January through April's the season, and they build robots and they compete against one another. It's awesome. And many of these kids are spending 20, 30, 40, 50 hours a week or more on these projects while they're going to school. Now, where were we in Michigan? Well, we had a fair number of teams. We were right up there with California. And then we said, let's go after this one. Let's invest some resources. We did in the last budget. So we created 80-plus teams in the last year. We created more teams in Michigan this last year than the other 49 states in our country combined. We have over 280 teams. The new goal they came up with was 450. And why is this so important? If you look at the research, the kids on these teams, and it's not just about science, technology, engineering, math. They're writing the business plan, they're doing the accounting, they're doing the marketing, they're learning all those team skills. In terms of looking at most kids going off to college, only about 6% or so will look at engineering. If they're on a FIRST Robotics team, that number jumps to about the 40% range, because they've learned to appreciate it in a practical sense, to look at the exciting part. So if you're not involved with FIRST Robotics, I hope we're signing you up. And to give you the closer on this one, it's not just about having the most teams, which we do now. When the World Championships got decided, it was a 4-team squad, and 2 of those teams, one was Bloomfield Hills, one was Holland, and then the Chairman's Award was Clarkson, for actually people working great together and showing the spirit of FIRST Robotics. So let's be proud that we're leading the nation in something like this that ties right back into STEM education. The second piece I really want to reinforce with you, though, is when I say STEM education, STEM is more than about getting a university degree. STEM needs to include the skilled trades and career tech education. I'm going to talk about that more tomorrow. But one of the single greatest opportunities we have in the state is getting, again, parents and young people to appreciate that running robotics equipment, running production automation equipment, running these roles is critically important to our future. We're a state that makes things. We should never walk away from that. Made in Michigan needs to be something special, whether it's created, grown, or manufactured in our state. So let's get out there and pass the word about the career tech education opportunities. So if you look at STEM at both the university level with science, technology, engineering, and math, or the skilled trades, we have a huge opportunity that feeds right back to entrepreneurship, that feeds right back to impact. We've completed the cycle then, because these are not separate silos we're talking about. These are all interrelated things. And these are all things that aren't about whether you're in the government sector, the public sector, or the private sector, or the nonprofit sector. They're about us deciding as Michiganders we're going to be the best. And that's where the whole approach of working together, showing success together, and having that grow is so important. And that's what this conference has really been able to achieve over the last 2 or 3 years. But I believe this conference is still growing up. We have opportunities to do more. I'll share with you a phrase. Some people on my team always give me this one, as I tell people, I don't like nice meetings. I really don't. And how do you measure that? Is when you go to a meeting and people leave and they go, after some event I've done, if they go out to their friends and people walk up to them and say, how was that meeting? And if the words out of your mouth were, well, it was a nice meeting, that's a failure, folks. If you're not fired up enough to come out of an event to say, when they say, how'd that meeting go? And you're not fired up enough to say, we need to do this, this, and this, it's not good enough. Again, why'd we bother? So let's come out of this meeting on Friday that when you see each other, whether down at the ferry or back in town or wherever you may be going, and whether it's someone else already here or someone else you meet, and they say, how'd that meeting go? I sure hope I don't hear, it was a nice meeting. But I hear it was, we're going to get this done, we're going to get this done, and we're going to get this done. When we hear that across the board as Michiganders, we're sending the point, the reinvention is at full speed. So let's aspire to make that happen. And let's deliver on that. Now, there's one other impact thing I want to share with you in terms of an opportunity we have during the session. We have an opportunity to say thank you and to help some people we should say thank you to. We have a veterans showcase, several of them. And it's about helping our veterans find jobs. When I became governor, we were at the bottom in terms of how we were taking care of our veterans in the state. We're at the bottom in a lot of ways. But one of the most tragic, and I was actually embarrassed about how we've done with our veterans in the state. It was terrible. We were 53rd in one measure. That we've made a concerted effort to do better by our veterans. Yeah, 53rd, folks. I said that right. Remember, I'm the CPA governor, so I can do okay on that. We did terrible. And so we've made a concerted effort, and we're doing much better in many regards. Again, in terms of health benefits, again, the VA may have some issues, but in terms of processing claims in Michigan, we're doing much better. Our benefit structure is nearly $1,000 higher per veteran in the state of Michigan in the last 3 years in terms of the amount of benefits they receive. But one of the areas we can really help is not just the benefit side, but helping them find a job and having a career. So we had a great session this last year at Masco in Taylor. We did a whole veterans showcase. And what we did there is we actually introduced a bunch of veterans and had them come up on stage and share their story. So we're going to have snapshots through that during the session. So one thing in terms of action items, those of you out here, I hope this is a situation where we're going to have several veterans. I hope many of them may have a job by the time we're finished on Friday. It happened in Taylor, folks. And I talked to some of the people that hired those people in Taylor, and they're really happy people. So let's try to make one impact item on a scale that's critical at the human level, the individual level. So what I'd like to do is actually ask our veterans to come on up. We've got 6 of them. And if you folk could come on up, let's give a welcome to our veterans. How are you? Must be Jared? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for joining us. Well, I'm honored to have them come up and join us. They're probably a little nervous, but they just have to remind them they're following me, so it's not hard to do better than I did. And several of them are going to leave with me, but we're going to have Zanetta and Jared share their stories in terms of kicking us off. And I hope to the degree you were so proud to stand and acknowledge their presence here, we'll work equally hard on saying, how do we talk to them? How do we connect with them? How do we help make sure they have a successful career? And how do we keep them right here in Michigan? So thank you for the opportunity to join you today. Several of us will be taking off, and we're going to turn it over to the stars of the show, you two fine service people. So thank you for your service, and thanks for the opportunity. I'll see you tomorrow. Thanks, guys.